Sanibonani babukeli sesifikile thina nentandokazi yohlelo lenu Yilungelo Lakho. It's your right. We're coming to you live khona la mamba phambili phela SABC 1 eMzansi for sure. Lona ke umangcolosi umashongololo ngisaba ukulibamba ungangibiza uAlisha ungangibiza uNhlanhla. Those are my names. Mbukeli, it's just days before this year's tax season, tax filing season actually kicks off. Phela ke mbukeli njengoba phela kuvulwa isikhathi sokukhokhwa kwentela okusemqoka ukuthi phela sazi kahle ukuthi luhamba kanjani lolu hlelo, yini futhi elindeleke kuthina njengabakhokhi phela bentela esayikhokha intela kulonyaka esiwuphetheyo. Ukusisiza ke ngalokho mbukeli asamukele ivakashi zethu namhlanje. Nginaso isivakashi la e-studio, ngihleli nentokazi enhle kakhulu. Amshoni samkhumbula Talitha Muade, yena ke uvele kwihhovisi le Tax Ombudsman lapho benisiza ukuthi kuxazululwe khona zonke inkinga phela eninazo mayelana nentela. We're also expecting ukuthi sibe nobaba Zulu, yena ke omele yona i-South African Revenue Service khona lapha ku Zoom, uzobe esijoyina eDurban. Sister Talitha, welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. So just a couple of days before tax season, tax filing season, Sister Talitha, what are your expectations this year? I'm a complaint, I'm sure azobe semaningi kakhulu as the office lakho.
Yes, already we have received a lot of complaints.
Okay.
Taxpayers who have been auto-assessed.
Okay.
Those are the ones that are complaining. We get people who are complaining that they don't want to become auto-assessed because they are of the view that it's an inconvenience for them, because they still have to make corrections to their tax assessments.
Okay.
Because some of them were indicating that SARS did not include some of their expenses, and because of that, they feel that it's a waste of their time.
But Sister Talitha, maybe let's backtrack a little bit. How does actually this auto-assessment actually work? Because I would presume ukuthi it makes things easier and less paperwork. You don't need to go to my office as a SARS because they calculate the amount. Obviously, you can then go and dispute the amount. Maybe you feel it's more or less. If they even penalizing you, maybe you're owing some tax.
It is one of the best things that SARS has implemented, according to my view.
Yeah.
Because a lot of taxpayers, what taxpayers are arguing, some of them, they're saying, where is SARS getting our information?
Okay.
And we know that SARS legislation allows them to access our information from third parties. So people like myself who earns one income, it's easy for SARS to auto-assess because they can access that information from my employer, they can access my IRP5, they can access my medical certificates if I have, they can access information from the banks. So it is very easy process, and it is helping a lot of taxpayers really to become compliant, because some of the people, especially these majority of people that are falling in the tax bracket of those that are being auto-assessed,
yes,
we have seen complaints from them reducing, which is a good thing, because they are now compliant. So it is effective.
All right, and then talk to us about what you just mentioned now, this tax bracket here, Laba, who actually qualify, because I understand, Sister Talitha, we spoke about it last year, Uguti, not everyone actually qualifies for an auto-assessment. So, obani le demographic that actually do qualify?
It's people that are earning one income.
Okay.
And it's people whose taxes are not really complicated.
Okay.
And SARS is easy to access their information from third parties. People like yourself, I think you won't qualify for auto-assessment because you are earning income from different sources, right?
You're putting me out there, Sister Talitha.
Because we had a discussion, you and I.
I'm a freelancer, yes.
Yes, as a freelancer.
Okay.
So usually we get complaints from people like some who are saying, why am I not auto-assessed? But when you look at their sources of income, it's people that are earning income from different sources.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay, and then, Sister Talitha, maybe let's explain, Uguti, how does then one register for filing season, does one have to practically go to SARS themselves, or they can do e-filing? I know there's an e-filing service that is available there. But I mean, complaints, I'm sure we've spoken about this before, when they were using e-filing services, it was complaints, there was just so many things that they didn't understand. They would rather go to a branch. And we know now, branch, you can hardly just walk into a branch and you have to make appointments and so forth.
Yes, firstly, let's start with who needs to register.
Okay.
Because anyone who's economically active and who earns income up to just over 91,000, you have to register for becoming a taxpayer with SARS within 60 days of you being economically active.
Who registers me, Sister Talitha? Company, or is it me, my employer?
There are different ways of registering. There are companies that register their employees in bulk. They do bulk registrations.
Yes.
There are people that walk into a SARS branch and do the registration. But now what we have seen, which is very interesting, is that SARS has this process on their online system where you can make an appointment, and SARS service agents, they can take you through the process of how to register on your e-filing, and you can become a taxpayer. It's a very simple process. You just make an appointment with SARS, and you get a tax number after you have obviously complied with what they have requested you to submit. Okay,
and those people that are now registered, abathathelwa intela, who really needs to go and file their returns? Because I know there is a certain number, if you're earning a certain amount per income yako, you don't necessarily need to file for tax returns. I think let's get clarity there, because a lot of people bazongai SARS to go and actually file their returns because they fall under a certain income bracket when they actually should have.
With the auto assessment, that is very good. That is what I was indicating earlier on, because these ones...
So it cuts out that whole process,
Yes, and SARS will indicate to people who is required to file a return and who doesn't file a return.
Okay.
So it's always best to visit the SARS website and check the information is available there. Yeah.
All right. And then, Sister Talitha, I mean, looking at the number or the nature of complaints that reach your office, who is usually, I know I asked you this question last year, who is usually at fault between SARS and the taxpayers, based on, of course, the volumes of information that you've come across?
It's unfortunate that taxpayers are mostly in the wrong.
Really?
Yes, and it's because most of the ordinary taxpayers, they do not understand the SARS processes of complaints management system. So we reject such complaints because most of them, they come to the office of the Tax Ombud prematurely. In some instances, you'd find that SARS process is still within the time frame for SARS to finalize it, and taxpayers, they quickly come and complain to the Tax Ombud. For example, a taxpayer would say, I have lodged an objection with SARS because I'm not in agreement with the assessment outcome that they issued me, and we know that SARS has 60 days to finalize that. And after 2-3 days, taxpayers, they come and complain to the office of the Tax Ombud, and we would reject and inform them that SARS is still within time frame. You need to allow them time to finalize their processes.
Okay, so when exactly should one umuntu o bereaved or umuntu o aggrieved, Sister Talitha, then decide to come to you to lay a complaint? What processes should have been exhausted before coming to Tax Ombud's office?
The first thing, you have to wait for the process to be finalized by SARS. Yes. If you are not happy, then you lodge a complaint with SARS Complaints Management Office. They have 21 business days to resolve your complaint. Sometimes they just reject your complaint and say it has been resolved without indicating how it has been resolved. Then you come to the office of the Tax Ombud and complain. However, there are instances where you don't have to go to SARS to lodge a complaint because it's a complaint that falls within the systemic issues that the Office of the Tax Ombud has already identified, or there are compelling circumstances that are forcing you not to wait for that 21 days of SARS. For example, matters that will cause undue hardship to you as an individual or as a company, or there are pressing matters that would warrant the tax ombudsman to feel that the time frame that SARS would take to finalize your complaint is not reasonable. Because in some instances, we get taxpayers who would say, I have found employment overseas. I have applied for SARS to issue me with an immigration certificate. It has been over 60 days. I have made follow-ups. I have lodged a complaint with SARS CMO, and they are not coming to the party. And we wouldn't send them back to SARS because it's an urgent matter. And we would take it because if we don't review it, it would cause undue hardship to the taxpayer. But I must indicate, every case is evaluated on its own merit because circumstances are different for each person to the next person.
Absolutely. And then before Talitha, maybe just what you touched on there, what are some of the most compelling types of matters that you will actually accept as a matter of urgency? As you've just mentioned now, it's immigration and it's urgent.
Some of them, the easiest ones is the identified systemic issues that the Ombud has already identified. Because SARS is already aware that they have faulted. And the list is on the Tax Ombud website, which can be visited at www.taxombud.gov.za. For example, SARS put in stoppers on refunds of people where there is no legal basis for SARS to put such. Where SARS is continuously doing a verification on a particular taxpayer for the same period over and over again, even when the taxpayer has submitted the documents that SARS has requested. So those we have already identified as systemic issues, and SARS also not adhering to the timeframes for objections. Because what is important to note is that if SARS delays in finalizing the objection, it could mean that the taxpayer was going to get a refund, or SARS was supposed to collect income, revenue from the taxpayer. So it's both either SARS or the taxpayer there could lose.
And then maybe let's talk about the nature of complaints in general. I know that you were talking about auto-assessments as one of the biggest complaints that you've received this year. But what other issues do people come to you for assistance with, particularly when tax season starts?
A lot of taxpayers, they come to us to say, I have been auto-assessed or I have been assessed by SARS, but SARS has put a stopper on the refund that is due to me. And there is no request from SARS as to what is it that I need to submit. And some of the complaints is taxpayers who says, SARS paid a refund into my bank account, but before I could even access it, they returned it back to themselves. And nobody is able to explain to me what is the reason for that. We also get complaints where taxpayers are complaining that their tax refunds have been paid into incorrect bank accounts, of bank accounts that they don't even know who are the owners. And unfortunately for those ones, it becomes very difficult and it takes SARS a very long period to recover the funds. And unfortunately, taxpayers, they think we are not doing anything about it. And we have to rely on SARS to finalize their processes.
You know, Sister Talitha, I know I'm putting you on the spot here. We are obviously awaiting an official from SARS who should be answering Lembuzo Lena, but I know that you're very knowledgeable about this, and we spoke about this off air. Unokulunga Zulu, Freedom Siyabonga Mhlongo actually wants to find out Nosabelo Nzanza, how do they apply? And I remember we said before we went on air, you don't apply for a tax return, you register for it. So Nangu Uputsabelo Zanza, they want to know, how do they register for SARS tax returns?
Okay, you're first registered to become a taxpayer, and once you are a taxpayer, then you file your return. So suppose a taxpayer there,
Sabelo, yes.
Ombud Sabelo is not a person who has been auto-assessed, right? If he has an e-filing profile, he can submit his return on on the e-filing.
Okay.
But there are taxpayers who still feel that they prefer to go to a SARS branch. Because of COVID, we know that SARS has introduced an appointment system.
Absolutely.
Where taxpayers make an appointment and you select a branch that is closer to you, where you would want to go and be assisted to file your tax return. It is a very simple process, and SARS officials do not charge a cent. And you just have to bring your supporting documents, such as your IRP5.
Where do you get this IRP5
The
from?
IRP5, you get it from your employer.
Okay.
If you have a medical aid, you get a medical aid certificate from the medical scheme that you belong to. If you have interest that you're earning from your bank, maybe you have investments.
Businesses.
Those that have businesses, the high side hustles, rather, and they have to compile their expenses and the income, because the majority of the people that would complain to us would say, I have my IRP5 and all this and that, but I have a house that I'm renting in the township, and I spend a lot of money to put security, to make sure that the place is safe, you know, my tenants are in a good place, and how do I claim such expenses? So that you take to SARS, and they will assist you to file it.
Okay. All right. No, Mbukeli, I hope ukuthi ulalele lapho, because ngempela kuthiwa kuzoba nzima kakhulu kubantu abaningi abangakhokhi intela. We're going to take a quick ad break. We're going to be back shortly after this. Welcome back, Mbogeli, to Yilungelo, Lakho. See live like Mamba Pambili, SABC 1 Mzansi for sure. 011-714-0669, alternatively 714-0670, consumer@sabc.co.za. That is our email and contact numbers. Alternatively, Ustole Lakho Facebook. We're talking all things tax season, tax filing season matters. Siyazi ukuthi ilokhuzana isikhathi sokuthi collectwe intela nokuthi kukhokhelwe abantu abakhokhela intela iyaqala in a couple of days. My guest today usis Talitha Muade, uvela ke na kwi-office le Tax Ombuds, uBud Zulu. I understand ukuthi usefikile eThekwini, yena ke urepresenta iSARS. But then nsizwe uyangizwa baba, very good afternoon to you. All right. Okay. I think uBud is not ready for us okwamanje, but hey, siyathemba Mbukeli ukuthi uzokwazi ukuthi asize, because kade usisitalitha esincenga lendlela ukuthi asichazele ngezinto phela zokuthi oma auto assessment neinkinga abayixazululayo office labo njenge office ye Tax Ombud. So now Sisitalitha, maybe let's touch on this. I haven't asked you this. Are there any maybe other changes or amendments to the current legislation that taxpayers need to be aware of?
Yes, which is good for taxpayers, because before, in terms of objections, taxpayers had 30 days to lodge an objection, and now they have 80 business days.
Wow.
So if I'm not in agreement, or you're not in agreement with an assessment outcome that SARS has issued, you have 80 business days to lodge an objection. So taxpayers can compile their evidence of things that they are saying they are not in agreement with, and they can lodge an objection with SARS within 80 days.
Okay.
And also there's an interesting one of the solar panels, because we all know that. Yes. And what is interesting about this is that immediately when the minister announced about this incentive, we already received complaints from taxpayers and inquiries saying, but I have already installed my solar panels and I'm helping government to reduce the energy. And why can't we as taxpayers who have installed them before the minister announced, claim for this incentive? And unfortunately, they cannot, because what has been indicated is that this incentive is available from the 1st of March 2023 to the 1st of March 2024. And with the information, the interpretation note that we read from SARS website, it says this is only valid for 1 year. So that's what we have had.
You've been dealing with.
Yes, and that's what we were explaining to taxpayers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And asifuna ukuba confused as Talitha, because I'm sure sazobuya lana sesizokhuluma ngale incentives yama-solar next year, so asiyibeke eceleni nje, but okwamanje. I wanted to go back to this point. I think there's so much emphasis, Talitha, on SARS being, you know, tax savvy and so forth, but we often forget that the bulk of our taxpayers are not tax savvy, and these people still want to have, you know, your face-to-face and literally have somebody who is assisting them, literally sitting there with them and taking them through the paperwork. So do you ever get abantu that come to your office and complain about the fact that I didn't understand? You were talking about people not understanding the processes of SARS, but do you ever get people that come there and say, you know what, I just literally didn't know what to do? Even though we're not saying they don't understand how SARS work, we're saying the processes and of course the services that SARS has put in place, they just cannot use them because they're not tech savvy.
Yes, we get a lot of those, and I must indicate that we have very skilled colleagues in my office.
Yeah.
But remember, with us, we do not help taxpayers to file returns.
Yes.
We assist them with complaints that they have with SARS. So what we would then recommend to them is how they get information from SARS to be assisted.
Okay.
So it would be we refer them back to SARS and you know, help them to connect to the branches that are closer to them, because most people, like you are indicating, they would say, but I didn't know. The common one that we see, Alicia, is when taxpayers, when they go on retirement, which is a very painful thing, when they go on retirement and they haven't filed the returns for so many years, which is sad. And when they have to receive their retirement packages, then SARS would garnish them.
Okay.
And what we normally say to taxpayers is that, unfortunately, in law, ignorance is
not an excuse.
So it is important that taxpayers, you know, they watch these shows, because it is through these shows that taxpayers know that even when the employer is deducting pay as you earn from your salary, you have to file your return. Because what they normally say to us, they say, but the employer is deducting pay as you earn, why must I file a return?
Yes.
But unfortunately, you have to file your tax return. And we cannot fault SARS on that, because SARS is making roadshows. They are making information available on the channels,
various
radio,
platforms,
you know, various platforms. We also see during filing season, SARS officials standing at the corners of the streets, just advertising. So it's practically impossible for anyone to say that I didn't know that I have to
file my returns.
And you have to pay tax. And we cannot help you not to pay tax. What we would do as the Office of the Tax Ombud, we would advise taxpayers to go back to SARS and make payment arrangements that they can afford. And unfortunately, some of them, they would not stick to the arrangement that they have made with SARS.
Absolutely,
and SARS will cancel that and deduct money from your bank or from your insurer.
Yo, Sister Talitha, uyasithusa manje, because I'm sure they come there once they realize that there is money being the money that has gone missing in their accounts. So when money is coming in, you don't really get any complaints like, why am I getting such a huge return? But we're going to talk about that after the break. Mbukeli, 011-714-0669, alternatively 714-0670. Those are the magic numbers zilapho kwi screen. We're talking all things tax filing season. We're coming back shortly after this right now. Mbukeli, welcome back. We're still live and talking everything ekumele uyazi wena Mbukeli. Futhi uma ngabe wena uyasebenza ukhokha intela njengoba wazi ke ukuthi i-tax filing season isiqalile or iyaqala ensukwini Mbukeli. Siyabona abantu bajabulile laba ba-auto assessed ko Twitter ko bani basho ukuthi hey baposta ngisho ama receipt uthi hey thina sesitholile imali zethu. Kodwa uyasho sisithandile ukuthi abaningi futhi benu baya ehhovisi lakhe nafike na complainer nathi cha le auto assessment engathi thina ayisisebenzeli. So uyasichazela ukuthi iziphi izinto okumele uzazi. All right, let's welcome on the line now njengoba bengipromisile Mbukeli ukuthi sizoba no Ombud Zulu orepresenta i-SARS. Unfortunately sesiyamthola lapha kwilokhuzana sikhona ukumthola kwiZoom but siyamthola online in Ombud. Siyabonga kakhulu Magebe ukuthi usijoine namhlanje. Awusichazele kabanzi sesichazile lana nentokazi sesiphushile ngempela but awusichazele ngama auto assessments ukuthi ngabe yini umphumeleni ubonayo kuona njengoba seniqalile ukuthi niwenze and nikhokhela abantu through ama auto assessments.
Thina dadwethu nakubo bonke abalaleli bohlelo nabakhokhi bentelo. U-auto assessment njengoba wazi ukuthi asiuqalanga kulonyaka sawuqala kunyaka wentela odlule. Njengoba udadewethu esephawulile ukuthi kukhona abanye abakhokhi bentela abeza kuye bekhala ngokuthi auto assessment wethu abamthembi.
Yebo.
Engemthembeni kwakho ayengekho angaka amaqiniso kodwa kwakuwukuthi asiqala ukumsebenzisa nathi nabakhokhi bentela beqala ukusebenzisa. Kulonyaka lo esikuwo sizame konke ukusemandleni ethu ukuthi sithole yonke imininingwane yabakhokhi bentela, sithola kumabhangi, sithola kuma medical aid, sithola kuma insurance
kubaqashi.
Sayihlanganisa yonke lento le senzela ukuthi kube lula kubakhokhi bentela ukuthi bangezi equluleni zethu. Ngingakuthembisa njengoba ngihleli lana ukuthi dadwethu ningumsebenzi owenziwe ukuthi ama auto assessment alonyaka ashaya khona la okumele ashaye khona.
And then babudeni laba esizwa ngabo ukuthi sebegijime baya lapha eoffice la sisitalitha benama objections. Mhlambe yini mhlambe ngabe yabakhalisa ukuthi mhlambe bakhala ngokuthi imali incane noma inkulu enibakhokhela yona.
Iningi elaya kuma objections ngale auto assessment dadwethu kulonyaka odlule abantu like ngiwenzele umzekeliso ukuthi mhlambe wena une-rental income.
Yebo.
Bese yonke information yakho emabhangi, insurance, kuma medical aid sina yonke lo. Kodwa ukuthola ukuthi wena udadewethu kunendlu oyiqashisayo kusho ukuthi unenye income.
Yebo.
Okanye kunomholo owutholayo komunye umqashi esingamali. Yilo usuzozazi ukuthi hayi indlu yakwa-SARS aniyifakanga yonke imininingwane nginalena. Yilapho ke sesicela khona ke ukuthi uzele nawo wonke lawo ma-documents azo zonke lezo ndaba lezo bese iyalungisa indaba yakho. Abaningi lawo abayinkulungwane esesiqalile ukubathumela ama-auto assessment mhla ka-30 izinto zabo zilungile. Asikho nesidingo sokuthi bafike eminyangweni yethu, singekho nesidingo sokuthi bashayele izingcingo. Abalinde nje nasekuqala i-filing season mhla ka-7 kuNtulikazi after 8 izinto zabo zobe sezilungile. Akukho nje isidingo sokuthi basuke emakhaya beze einkantolo zethu.
Okay, and then babudeni ngiunderstand la ukuthi kuthiwa engathi nifakela abantu abaningi ama penalties for like hundreds of thousands of amalokhuzana ama taxpayers. Yini amacala abo ngabe benzeni kangaka?
Abaningi ukwathi nje ngibuyele emumva kusukela ngomhla ka1 kuDisemba ku2022 kuZibandlela.
Yebo.
Kuneningi labakhokhi bentela eMzansi abangazange basubmite ama-return abo eminye iminyaka. Akaze basubmite ama-return mhlambe eminyaka emithathu emihlanu. Yibo-ke labo esibashaye ngesijeziso esibiza ngokuthi phecelezi ama-administrative penalties ngoba baphule umthetho ngokuthi bangasubmiti ama-return abo.
But then Babu then sonke siyaza ngithi ukuthi siphuma kwi-COVID abantu abaningi balahlekelwe imisebenzi. So ama excuse abantu abaningi ukuthi mhlawumbe umuntu besebenza mhlawumbe wanciphiselwa ama shift emsebenzini nimsiza kanjani lo muntu because what if there was actually nothing to file for that length of period of time and then sebeyabuya ke manje ngoba mhlawumbe sebethola umunye umsebenzi kwenye indawo.
Noma sebebuya ke uyakwazi ukuchaza ukuthi ububambene nalezi nkinga obubambene nazo kodwa bese uyayifayila ke i-return kuzothi ke uma sesizokujezisa ngalentelo kumele uyikhokhe ngoba ayincane phela siqala ukukhokhisa from ku250 kuye ku16000 ngenyanga kuba imali eningi usungayina phela uchaze ubonise nokubonisa ukuthi ubungahleli ngoba udelela umthetho.
Okay, and then lokho bakwenza kuphi ke wena baba baya beza kunini office noma baya kusisikhalita yikuphi la kumele baqale khona bazochaza istory ukuthi cha mina bengingasasebenzi baba khana ngibuyele emsebenzini khana umsebenzi upick up noma ibusiness lilunga manje.
Izinto eziningi ngaphambi ukuthi uye kusisikhalita kumele uyilungise nathi ukuyilungisa nathi ukhuluma nathi ngokwenza i-appointment uze kwelinye lama-office ungayizeli kodwa uzokwazi ukwenza i-appointment ku-website yethu bese ufika sizokwazi ukukunceda okanye futhi noma wenza i-appointment siyakwazi ukuthi sikufonele ekhaya sikuncede ocingweni nakuvideo.
Okay, and then Sister Talitha, you know, I'm very interested in this. Bengifuna ukubuza lokho before siye kefini ukuthi ukuthole nje mhlawumbe amanye ama complaints mhlawumbe abantu bekhala ngama scams and mhlawumbe what is then the nature of the recourse in such matters?
And what we normally get is complaints where taxpayers say that their profiles have been hijacked.
Okay.
Right? And when the profiles have been hijacked, the scammers, through lack of better word, I'll call them the scammers, would file tax returns on their behalf and do all the wrong things. And unfortunately, in some instances, SARS would pay that money, the refund of these fraudulent submissions to the fraudsters. But when SARS do the revision of those assessments, they would request the original taxpayer to pay back the money. Because remember, SARS would not know that this is a scam. And a taxpayer, those that come to us, they would say, but I didn't receive the money.
Absolutely.
I have gone to the bank.
You can even check in my account.
Yeah, I have gone to the bank, which SARS claims that they have paid money into. And here is a letter that indicates that I don't even have a bank account with such a bank. So what we would recommend to them is to go back to SARS and lodge a complaint of suspicious activity into the account. And unfortunately, those ones, Alicia, they take very long for SARS to investigate and finalize. And this is what we find to be making taxpayers very unhappy because they think that information can just happen.
Absolutely.
And we know that when it comes to fraud investigations, it takes long for such cases to be finalized. We get a lot of them. A lot of them.
Sister Talitha, hold that thought. I'm going to ask Buden about this just to also weigh in on that. Buden, I hope ulalele lapho nsizwa, but I just want to quickly go to the lines. We do have uSisigugu ola eJoburg. Sisigugu, ngiyabonga ntokazi ukuthi uhlale lapho ocingweni siyakwamukela ohlelweni umbuzo noma umbono.
Nginombuzo sisinjani?
Siyaphila sanda sami ngabuza umbuzo.
Ngiyaphila. Bengifuna ukwazi ngithi ngivulele kusase sekulate. Ngifuna ukwazi ukuthi what is an auto assessment?
Oh, okay. Ufuna ukwazi ukuthi auto assessment yini. But then awusalusa umchazela lapho uSisigugu uthi ungene kwilungelo sekulate ufuna ukwazisisa kahle ubesechazile uSisitalitha mesiqala uhlelo ukuthi yini le auto assessment mhlawumbe uyibeke ngelamagebe.
Sisigugu sawubona.
Yebo sawubona.
I-auto assessment ngoba ibekwa ngesilungu ukuthi i-auto assessment okusho ukuthi thina singusasi sesitholile imininingwane yakho ngokuthi uhola imali engakanani sizoyithola kumqashi wakho une-interest engakanani oyithole ebhange sithola kumabhange akho uma une-RIP retirement annuity siyakwazi ukutholela lo information kumshwalense wakho like o-Liberty o-Old Mutual uma ke une-medical aid suke sithathile yonke leyo mniningwane yakho kulezi nkampani esengiyibalile bese sithatha yonke le mniningwane yakho ke sihlanganise sibone ukuthi umqhashi wakho uthathe intela engakanani ama-retirement annuities akho ayimalini ukhokha imali engani bese sikwazi ukubala ukuthi siyakweleda na imali okanye wena uyasikweleda kusho ukuthi wena ayikho into kumele uyenze ungusisigugu uyayihlalela nje ekhaya ulinde thina sikutshele ukuthi isigugu sesilungisile indaba zakho zentela naku okwakho ozokuhlola okanye usikweleda imali engaka ukuthi sesikwenzele umsebenzi uyazi ukuthi abantu bebegcwala ey'cingweni zethu bami kumathu amade asifuni ke khona lokho ukuthi abantu beze ey'cingweni nje sisuke sesikulungisile konke
ngiyabonga kakhulu baba yazi ngiya-understand-ke now so ayikho into ekumele ngiyigijimele SARS kumele nje ngihlale ngilinde
asikho isithando sami sihlala esofeni yakho nje ukhululeke
ngiyabonga kakhulu
but then ungamislead usisigugu la mhlawumbe usisigugu bekumele asichazele ukuthi yena uyabona ukuyiphi lokhuzana ibracket yalabantu because if ngi-understand siyabonga sisigugu ngabe kucingo but then I want you to ngiyabonga sisiwami but then ngifuna uchaza ukuthi mhlawumbe obani laba baqualifyela le auto assessment because akuyena wonke so njengoba uthi abahlala emakhawuthini uzobe usubabiza futhi uthi abeze lapha SARS bangene emahhovisi balethe amaphepha because there is other income abangazange bayideclare. Another ad break mbukeli siyabuya emva kwaleli khefu. Welcome back. Ungabamba iqhaza ke la eshowini yethu namhlanje ukuthi usithinte la ku 0117140669 alternatively 0117140670 consumer@sabc.co.za that is our email address or ukhulume nathi la on our social media platforms. Ngisahleli nosis Talitha Muade ovela kwi-office or ihhovisi le Tax Ombud oxazulula zonke inkinga eninazo ke mayelana ne-SARS and then uBuden Zulu sinayi la kulayini useThekwini insizwa ke yona irepresenta i-SARS but then njengoba bengithe insizwa ngicela ukuthi uphinde ugcizelele la kuloku kusho ukuthi not everybody actually obviously qualifies for an auto assessment so now those that have been asebeba auto assessile should they then still keep information yabo safe ama returns abathole like ama hard copies ama RP5 or kuma lokhuzana kuma apps wabo just in case kuba nama needs or ama disputes later on ekumele badile ngawo and they need this information because they were auto assessed
wonke ke dadwethu umholi wentela kumele azigcine zonke lezi ncwadi RP5 wakho lezo sukutshole kumqhashi nokuthole ku medical aid kunesikhathi okumele uyigcine kuwe as part of your filing kodwa uma auto assessing nakhona kumele uzigcine okungamelanga ukwenze ukuthi uze kumahhovisi ethu ngoba sesiqedile ngawo.
Okay. All right, Baba. Let me just go back to the lines of because no Sister Talitha wants to add to that. Anonymous in Pretoria, thank you so much for joining us. Umbuzo Nombon, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much. Umbuzo wami uthi sisi ngangisebenza kwenye ama supermarket. Ngangithola vele iholo ingangiqualifyisa ukuthi ngibhadale i-tax. Manje ke ngase ngiyaphuma ngithola i-provident fund. I-provident fund yona bayi-tax ngoba maybe yayini kwakufanele i-tax manje ke inkinga ukuthi kwabhaleka wrong i-bank account yami
Okay.
ngangayithola leyo mali abayiteksile kuthe emva kwesikhathi eside ngabona ukuthi iphutha laba la ku-bank account ebhaleke wrong manje sekukudala kakhulu inhliziyo yami yayibe buhlungu uma ngibona kukhulunywa ngo-SARS la ngoba sekukudala kakhulu ngo-2009 leyo mali angizange ngiphinde ngiyithole.
Awu Ntokazi, iphutha kwakubani mhlawumbe wafaka ama-banking details are-wrong?
Angisakhumbuli kwakuyini noma kwabasemsebenzini la ngangisebenza khona.
Oh okay, but uthi usayikhalela leyo mali Ntokazi ngoba wabachazele SARS ukuthi kahle kahle kwaba nephutha lokuthi imininingwane yakhe ayikho right? Oh okay, but then usisi lana siyabonga Anonymous nangu okay. Sisi Anonymous uthi wasebenza iprovident yakhe sebelokhu ungizwile lapho but then are you still with us?
Isasekhona ngiyakuzwa.
Yebo umzwile baba Intokazi lapho ukuthi thini? Ngicela umphendule baba if ungakhona ukumsiza.
Ngimzwile ukuthi kuthiwa banking details zakhe zabhalwa wrong yagcina imali yakhe ye-provident fund ingene komunye umuntu.
Yebo baba. Uthi usayikhalela kodwa ngoba phela wachaza ukuthi hey kwaba nenkinga lapha ne-information manje uyanxusa ukuthi hawu anizami nokuthi nimhlephulele mhlambe noma u5% ngoba phela iphutha akakusakhumbuleki ukuthi iphutha kwaku-SARS noma kwakuyi-employee.
Okusemqoka engakusho dadewethu ukuthi angicabangi ukuthi iphutha lenziwa uSARS mhlawumbe lenziwa i-employer
umqashi
kasisi yangena kumuntu o-wrong yangena kwebhanki eli-wrong uSARS akakwazi manje ukuthi ngoba kwakungasiyinkinga yethu thina siwu-SARS ukuthi sifake leyo mali loyo usisi kusho ukuthi miningi imigudu nje angayihamba nokuthi ayovula icala ukuthi na i-banking details zami na imali yangena lana izokwazi lo mali leyo ukuthi iyolandwa kulo muntu owayithola kuza ingamfanele ngoba kube lo muntu wayethembekile kwakumele asho ukuthi cha le mali
Neheva bengeke budeni balethe imali nje isambe singakho. Sis Talitha, maybe just jump in there and also add on to what you wanted to add when it comes to labantu be auto assessment. I mean, how is it, do you ever get complaints ukuthi wrong information was sent, particularly on the employer, money was sent to the wrong bank? Like how do you deal with that because money has already been paid?
Yes, we do get
Are you able to recoup the money?
No, we cannot.
Okay.
Because remember the Tax Ombud, we only deal with complaints against SARS.
So that's a third party.
Yes. So in this instance of Anonymous, it is not SARS that is at fault.
Yes.
It is the fund administrator. So the person, Anonymous, will have to go to the fund administrator.
Okay.
We do get them. And unfortunately, some taxpayers, they confuse fund administrators with SARS.
Okay.
But unfortunately, the Tax Ombud only reviews complaints against SARS.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
Okay, and then very quickly, you wanted to add on to Lababe Auto Assessment.
Yes, because some of the taxpayers, they would want to correct their auto assessment outcome. And they would, we know that they have 40 business days to do a correction after SARS has issued an auto assessment outcome. And the complaints that we get is taxpayers who say, but the 40 days has lapsed. I was very ill, especially during the COVID period last year. A lot of people said they couldn't do the corrections because they were terminally ill. And some, especially the soldiers, would indicate that they were seconded to countries like Burundi where they didn't have access to internet. And we would then refer them back to SARS and ask them to provide SARS with evidence of what they are indicating and make an application, and SARS can extend that 40 days.
All right. Hayi nezwa-ke bakithi ukuthi kuhlale kunecebo lapho njengoba echaza usisithalita ukuthi wena noma ngathiwa awunani internet awuna ini kodwa khuluma phela bezokwazi ukuthi bakusize and point you to the relevant bodies. Let's take our final break. Siyabuya khona manje. Mbokele, it's our final segment. Sengizovala ingcingo. I think boss yami siyivalile already, but ngisahleli nentokazi la enhle kakhulu usisi Talitha Muade o representa ioffice le Tax Ombud, and on the line we do have ubaba uDan Zulu, yena ke uvela lapha ya SARS. But then babuza lana abantu ukuthi abantwana lekhona labantwana bayisa ezikoleni mhlawumbe abanama special needs abanani bakhona angithi bayaclaima ku medical aid. So bayabuza ukuthi do the parents then are the parents able to then claim that money back from SARS now? Very quickly, Baba.
Bayakwazi nakudeclarewa dadwethu uyakwazi ukuclaim abantwana abanama special needs. Ikhona indawo yokuclaima lokho. Inkani nje uma wazi ukuthi uyiphethe zonke incwadi ezidingakalayo ezesikolo leso nezincwadi eziqhamuka kudokotela, kodwa ke uyakwazi ukuclaima siswa.
All right, and then Lucas Diago lana put then very quickly uthi kumele ngisubmit good day all kumele ngisubmit noma isalary yami ingaphansi kwe-2,000 rand na?
Asikho isidingo sikabhuti ukuthi asubmit.
Okay, kumiwa kuphi baba uDan la ukuthi abantu basubmit khona? Baqala kuphi? Kuyiphi number yesalary?
Ukusubmita kuqala uza uma uhola imali edlula u500,000. I think abantu baqala lapho ukusubmita. Uthi uyakwazi ukuya ku website yethu ufake imininingwane yakho ubuze ukuthi am I supposed to submit bese i-website yethu izokwazi ukuphendula.
Okay, siyabonga kakhulu. And then to wrap off, Sister Talitha, what do you want to tell us before sivala uhlelo ntokazi?
All that I want to say is that the Office of the Tax Ombudsman is here to assist taxpayers for free.
Okay.
And if taxpayers have complaints against SARS, they can lodge complaints with the Office of the Tax Ombudsman, and they can access information from our website is www.taxombud.gov.za.
Okay.
Yes.
And then it's turnaround time yokuthi resolve lama cases, Sister Talitha, because I'm sure abantu basuke bemele imali mase beza kunini.
Yes, when we receive your complaint, we have 2 days to process it and 8 days to give you an outcome.
All right.
So that's how quickly we resolve your complaint.
Resolve it. Absolute. Yes. So like best service ever. 8 days. Usisi Talitha usedilile nemetha yakho kungenzeka nokuthi uthole cashback. Mbukeli, unfortunately sengiphelelwe isikhathi. I-director yami sithi angivalelise manje. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much to uDan Zulu nawe Sister Talitha. Thank you so much for your invaluable input this afternoon. Babukeli, go on those websites as SARS. Buzani imbuzo yakajali ntokazi. Happy SARS e-filing. Bye-bye.